I never imagined my name would be spoken in hospital corridors or whispered in prayer circles. My name is Angela Matthews, and up until October 9th, 2024, I lived what most would call a simple life. I was a single mother in Birmingham, Alabama, working double shifts as a nurse at an assisted living facility. My days were spent changing linens, checking vitals, and offering quiet comfort to residents who had outlived most of the people they loved. It was a Tuesday like any other. The sun broke over the horizon in a soft amber hue, lighting up the brick face of my apartment building as I sipped my usual cup of hazelnut coffee. My son, Jordan, had left for school, and I was halfway through packing his favorite banana muffins in a container when I got the call asking if I could come in early. Someone on night shift had called out. I didn't hesitate. I threw on my scrubs, kissed our framed photo of my late mother by the door, and ran out with my keys jangling. The facility was only a 15-minute drive away, just past the expressway, and I had taken that route 100 times. That morning, I remember feeling especially grateful for work, for my son, and for the small, steady rhythm of life. But that rhythm shattered. It was pouring rain by the time my shift ended. I remember the fatigue in my bones, the way my feet ached in my shoes, and how I had stopped by a corner store to pick up Jordan's favorite orange soda. I was humming along to an old gospel tune playing on the radio when the headlights came. Blinding.
Swift.
Unreal. The truck hit me from the side, spinning my small SUV into the median. I didn't hear the crunch of metal or the shattering of glass the way you'd think. I felt it, the weightlessness, the floating, the way time folded in on itself. One moment I was gripping the wheel, the next I wasn't anywhere at all. There was no pain, there was no fear, just silence, and then darkness. Not the kind that's frightening or lonely. It was more like an endless stillness. I was there suspended, aware but bodiless, thought without voice, existence without breath. Then I began to see. I was above my car looking down at the wreckage. My body was pinned in the driver's seat, slumped and motionless. Red and blue lights flashed, casting surreal shadows on the pavement. Rain fell in slow motion, glinting like glass beads in the beams of the ambulance lights. Paramedics moved with urgency, shouting commands. One of them, a young man with curly brown hair, kept yelling my name. Angela,
Can you hear me?
stay with us. I wanted to answer I truly did, but my voice wasn't mine anymore. My body was a shell, and I was watching from above, detached, weightless, stunned. Then I saw her, my mother. She had passed away 6 years ago from a sudden aneurysm, but there she was, standing just outside the chaos of the crash, looking right at me. She was dressed in the same navy church dress she wore on Sundays, her hair pulled back into the soft bun I used to love resting against as a child.
She didn't speak. She didn't need to.
Her eyes, filled with love and peace, told me everything. I was dead. Or at least, I wasn't alive as I had been. I should have panicked. I should have screamed, fought, cried. But none of those things came. Instead, there was a calmness, like stepping into a warm bath after years of cold showers. Then came the light. It didn't come from a source, it was the source. It wasn't in front of me, behind me, or above me. It was everywhere, and yet it didn't blind. It welcomed,
Drew me in.
enveloped me in something I had never truly known, perfect love. And then he spoke. Angela, come. The voice was not booming, not theatrical. It was soft, like a memory wrapped in gold. But it was unmistakable. In the deepest part of me, I knew it. Jesus. As I moved toward the light, I felt something pull at me, not physically, but emotionally. All the burdens I had carried, shame, fear, disappointment, they began to dissolve, like smoke in sunlight. I was being unmade and made new all at once. Then I saw him, and I wept. I don't know how to describe his face in a way that does it justice. Words fail, like trying to capture the Grand Canyon with a crayon. His eyes, oh, His eyes, they held eternity in them. Oceans of understanding, galaxies of grace. Looking into them was like staring into the deepest part of the sky and realizing it had always been looking back. He didn't speak with words. He spoke with knowing. One glance, and every question I had ever asked in midnight prayers was answered. Every fear I had buried beneath my smile was seen. And yet, instead of judgment, he radiated a love so pure, so unshakable. I fell to my knees, though I had no knees. I wasn't ashamed in his presence. I was seen, fully, and still fully loved. Then he reached out his hand, and when he touched me, something unlocked.
I don't know how else to say it.
In an instant, I saw the world as he sees it. I saw us. I saw people, mothers rushing out the door with coffee in hand, teenagers scrolling through screens with empty eyes, pastors preparing sermons, addicts curled up in alleys, fathers laughing with their children. I saw it all, and what struck me wasn't our behavior, but the battle raging around us, above us, and even within us. The world we live in is not what it seems. There is a battle not of guns and bombs, but of truth and deception, identity and confusion, light and shadow. I saw families fighting over things that didn't matter, political arguments tearing churches apart, races divided not by truth, but by lies. Jesus turned to me and said, without moving his lips, "They are not each other's enemies. They are mine, all of them, and the enemy has convinced them otherwise." Suddenly, I saw dark figures moving through the world like shadows with intent. Not horror movie monsters, not ghouls. No, they were ideas, thoughts, whispers. They slid into hearts and minds, planting seeds of resentment, bitterness, guilt, and shame. For Black men and women, I saw whispers saying, "You're not worthy. You'll never be more. Hold onto your anger, it's all you have." For white men and women, the whispers said, "You're guilty. You can't be trusted. You will always be the problem." And both groups were chained by grasping at pain, misunderstanding, and blame, while forgetting who they were. Jesus' face filled with sorrow as he showed me this. They believe the lie, and the lie blinds them to the truth, that they are family, that they are mine. I broke down. The spiritual reality was so clear, and yet so missed. Then he showed me something else. I was taken to a towering hall filled with light and energy. It wasn't made of bricks or steel, it felt alive. And inside were souls not yet born. Beings of light, radiating promise and purpose. I gasped. "These are those I will send," Jesus said. Each one crafted with purpose. Each one carrying gifts. But when they enter the world, and in that moment I saw it, the moment they were born, the battle began. Some were wrapped in love and guidance, but others were thrown into chaos, broken homes, abuse, distractions, addictions. The enemy moved swiftly, confusing them before they could even speak, drowning them in noise so they would forget why they were sent. I turned to Jesus, tears burning like fire in my spirit. How do we stop this? How do we fight back? He looked at me with a compassion so fierce it could melt iron. Tell them who they are. Tell them why they were created. Remind them that I have not forgotten them. Then I saw a light, small at first, flickering, uncertain. But it grew, and it wasn't coming from heaven. It was coming from people. Teachers, mothers, teenagers, janitors, preachers, accountants, farmers, students, ordinary people. But in the spiritual realm, they shone like stars. Each one carried a truth that pushed back against the darkness. They didn't shout. They didn't fight with weapons. They spoke life. They lived love. And wherever they stood, the enemy fled. Jesus turned to me, his eyes blazing with resolve. These are my warriors. Their weapon is truth. And when they speak, chains fall. As the vision expanded, I began to understand something I had never quite grasped while on earth. Truth isn't just a principle, it's a weapon. It cuts through deception like light cutting fog. The people I saw, these glowing, ordinary warriors, they weren't special because of their talents or status. They were special because they had chosen to believe the truth and live it, even when it cost them everything. Jesus showed me how their words, prayers, and actions sent shockwaves through the spiritual realm. Every time one of them forgave instead of lashing out, spoke life instead of criticism, or chose love over fear, chains fell from those around them. The enemy couldn't stop them because nothing is more powerful than truth spoken in love. I turned to Jesus, my soul burning. I have to go back, don't I?
He nodded softly.
Yes, Angela. But there is one more thing I must show you. The warmth of his presence remained, but the scene around us changed. In an instant, we stood overlooking a city unlike anything I'd ever seen. It was massive, sprawling beyond the horizon. Skyscrapers shimmered like glass and metal towers. Giant screens hovered in the air, displaying beautiful, smiling faces. The streets were spotless, orderly. But it was wrong. Everything was too perfect, too silent. Thousands of people moved through the streets, but there was no laughter, no conversation. Their eyes were glued to invisible streams of data projected in the air, implanted beneath their skin. They moved like machines. My chest tightened. What is this? Jesus' voice was heavy. This is the world that will come if they do not wake up. As I watched, I felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow. These people weren't imprisoned behind bars. They were enslaved by comfort, by technology, by efficiency. They had given up thinking for themselves, and they didn't even realize it. Then, looming over the city, a massive holographic image of a man appeared on a tower. He was charismatic, smiling, his voice smooth and warm like honey. The people paused in reverence when he spoke. I watched in horror as their admiration turned to devotion. Jesus whispered, "This is the one they will follow, the one they will trust. But they will not see the chains he places upon them until it is too late." I saw nations celebrating unity and peace, governments enforcing new systems, churches adapting to modern spirituality, and people lining up to receive something, a small device, implanted just beneath the skin. They called it an upgrade, a solution, a miracle. I gasped, "Lord, is this the mark?" Jesus looked at me with grave seriousness. "Not yet, but this is how they will be led to accept it, step by step, deception by deception. First, it will be convenient, then it will be necessary, and finally, it will be mandatory." I wanted to scream, to run through the streets, shaking people awake, but they couldn't hear me. They were entranced, numb, asleep. I turned to him again, desperate. How do we stop this? How do we wake them up? His answer was both simple and weighty. Some will listen, some will not. But those who know my voice will not be deceived. You must tell them, warn them before the time comes. The scene shifted once more. We stood in a vast, open field. No more buildings, no screens, no crowds. Just silence and sky. Jesus stood beside me, gazing out over the horizon. "Angela, the world has forgotten the power of choice. They believe they are victims of circumstance. But I gave them free will. It is the greatest gift I ever gave. And yet so many choose destruction." I wept. I looked at him, my voice trembling. "Lord, they don't know. They don't see. How can they choose when they don't realize they're being deceived?" He turned to me, his eyes fierce with love and sorrow. "That is why my people must speak. That is why the truth must be louder than the lie." Then I saw them two paths, stretching out in front of humanity. One was wide, smooth, beautiful. People walked down it easily, laughing, distracted. But as they walked, a darkness began to swallow them. They didn't even notice. The other path was narrow, rugged,
Steep.
filled with thorns and thistles. But at the end of it stood Jesus, arms open, light pouring from his being. Most will choose the easy path, Angela, he said gently. But those who seek me will take the harder road, and I will lead them home. I fell to my knees. What do I do? How do I help them see? He placed his hand on my shoulder. Tell them the truth. Some will reject it. Some will mock you. But those who are mine, they will hear my voice. And when the time comes, they will know which path to take. And then, I was falling. Not through space, not through time, but through reality itself. The warmth of his hand faded, and with it, the light. Darkness rushed in, not empty, not evil but dense. The weight of mortality returned.
Breath, blood, pain.
I gasped. The first thing I felt was the pressure in my chest. Then the sounds, monitors beeping, the quiet hum of fluorescent lights, the distant echo of heels on tile. My eyelids fluttered open to a blur of movement. I was in a hospital bed. I was alive. Around me stood my family, my sister, Jordan, my pastor. Their eyes wide, some in tears. My sister clutched my hand as though she could anchor me there. You're back, she whispered. Oh my God, you're back. The doctor later told me I had been clinically dead for 4 minutes. They were preparing to call time of death. But something changed. My pulse returned. My body stabilized. They say it's a miracle, my sister told me.
It was.
But not the way they thought. Because I hadn't just seen the other side. I had been sent back. With a message. With a fire. But that fire met ice. As soon as I tried to share what I saw, what I knew, I met resistance. My sister, though gentle, thought it was the trauma. My pastor warned me not to alarm the congregation with speculative theology. Some friends thought I had dreamt it, sedated and delusional. Others smiled politely and changed the subject. But the weight of what I had seen never left me. It burned behind my eyes. It ached in my bones. Jesus had shown me the truth, and I had to speak.
So I did.
First quietly, then louder. To neighbors, to co-workers, to the woman in the grocery line who told me her daughter was struggling. Anyone who would listen. At first, it was lonely, discouraging. But then things started happening. I saw news stories about implantable chips being tested for cashless payment systems. I read articles about churches embracing artificial intelligence to preach, replacing spirit with software. I watched influencers celebrate a future where privacy, emotion, even spirituality were outsourced to convenience.
And I knew.
It had already begun. The deception wasn't in the future, it was now. People felt it, even if they couldn't articulate it. Something in the air, something in their spirit. They were searching, longing, unsettled. They didn't need convincing, they needed confirmation. So I became a voice. Not a preacher, not a prophet, just a woman who had seen truth. A mother, a nurse, a soul returned from the edge. I began sharing my story online. Small circles first, then larger ones.
Some people mocked me,
called me a conspiracy theorist, a religious fanatic. But others, they wrote to me, whispered to me, cried on my shoulder. I felt it too. I've been dreaming the same things. I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't explain it. And in those moments, I knew I wasn't alone. God was already waking up his people. My job wasn't to save everyone, it was to speak, to tell what I saw, to shine a light. The hardest part? Watching people I love choose blindness. Watching them scroll deeper into distraction. Watching them follow convenience straight toward control. Watching them dismiss the truth for comfort. Jesus told me that would happen. Some will listen, some will not. But you, reading this UVE made it this far. That means one thing. You were meant to hear this. This isn't just my story. It's a warning. The enemy isn't coming with chains and prisons. He's coming with comfort, with logic, with ease. He's whispering, it's just technology. It's just progress. It's just the way of the world. But it isn't. It's the first step. and then the next, and then the one after that, until you wake up one day and realize you're no longer free. Not in body, not in mind, not in soul. But here's the hope. Jesus has already won. The battle is finished. The tomb is empty. The light still shines. The truth still speaks. And the choice is still yours. So choose. Not tomorrow. Not when it's easier. Not when it's convenient.
Now.
Because one day, you'll find yourself on one of two roads. And at the end of one of them, he will be standing, arms open, eyes like eternity. A voice that once called my name and now, perhaps, is calling yours.